Today we will be going through with the SQL-based migration. So most of the people who are working with Drupal, all the Drupal developers have came to a scenario where they wanted to have some sort of migration, and every one of us have partially or fully done have some kind of migration. Either it's from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 or Drupal 7 to Drupal 9. But most of the times we are using either the custom modules, sorry, we are using the country modules, or we are using some core migration methods, right? But uh, a scenario where that core migration or some contributed migration modules are not so useful in such case, we need to have this kind of SQL based migration. So as everyone has most of have understanding of this migration, we will not get much detail about the migration process, but we'll quickly walk through how the migration is handled in Drupal and what are the steps that Drupal understands in terms of migration. So, firstly, we will discuss about the migration types. Then we'll go through with the migration process. Then we'll have a basic understanding and a quick demo of SQL-based migration. So let's check with the migration approaches, or we can say the migration types. So there are majorly two types of migrations available with Drupal. So basically, it's a migration from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9 or Drupal 10. So when we say a migration, it can be possible that we need to have the same architecture as our Drupal 7 website, and we do not have any single piece of change or in the architecture. So that's called the entire migration, or we can say it as a migration UI. So Drupal itself provides this core module called migrate and migrate UI. With use of those modules, we just need to we just need to provide that information related to Drupal 7 website, and that's all. We are good to migrate everything from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9. This does not require any kind of technical knowledge. It is required, but it does not require in-depth knowledge of the migration process, how the Drupal handles the migration. And the second migration is the Drush migration. Generally, we are using this kind of Drush migration for most of our projects. So, what is this Drush migration? How Drupal acts with this kind of Drush migrations? So, when we are talking about migration, right, there are total three steps, three parts involved with the migration. One is the source, one is process, and the last one is the destination. So, what is source plugin, what is process, and what is destination? We'll discuss slightly in detail in those three plugins. So, source plugin. So, as it names says, source is something that we are giving some sort of source data to Drupal, right? So, it's a basically raw data. It can be anything. It can be in your XML file, it can be in your CSV file, it can be in your JSON file, or simply it can be your database itself, right? So database SQL file is also a part of data. We can export that entire database either into CSV or JSON as well. But when we are migrating Drupal from Drupal 7 or let's say, for example, from any particular website. It could be any other framework or CMS. That can be anything. So basically, when we feed some data to Drupal, Drupal treats it as a source of the data. So that can be your database from other website, or it can be some sort of this CSV, XML, or JSON file. Now let's talk more about this process plugin. So what is process? So when when we are providing some sort of source data to Drupal, Drupal does not exactly understand how that data should be handled in which manner. I mean, it should be say, stored in Node, it should be stored in some other entity or where. and what is the format of that data. So process does that. Process manipulates that source data and set it according to the Drupal needs. And once we are, the data is processed, that is ready to be sent to the destination plugin. So what is destination plugin? So destination plugin is nothing but our Drupal entity, the architecture of Drupal which we have taken in for our new website, and the different entities, different destinations like node, taxonomy, user, this kind of destination that we can provide to our migration source. Yeah. So most of us have either used core migration, and on top of that core migration, we have altered some data in order to handle our migration to store into Drupal 9 website. But today we will be discussing about this SQL-based migration. So what steps are required in order to make this SQL migration? So first of all, you need to prepare your query in terms of your source website, your old website from where you wanted to migrate the content. So if you are familiar with uh, uh, how to use the queries, how to use the left joins on different tables, either it's on Drupal base or it's on some other platform base. But if you understand the query, you understand the relation between other different tables, then it's easier for you to create this SQL queries. Next thing is defining your fields. So this defining of fields is not as much as important as your query, because this defining fields can only be used when you are using some kind of UI. But when we are using this drush commands, these fields are not that much important. So and next is that defining your IDs, and that can be done using the get IDs function. So what this get IDs function do? So it uniquely identifies your row. So when you are running some kind of SQL query in your query function, you will get a set of records. It's not a single record. So to identify and to distinguish between the each records, you need to provide some sort of unique identifier to your uh, SQL migration. So this get IDs function will do that. That will define your unique identifier and distinguish different rows, and you can then process the data of your SQL output, and then you can pass that data to prepare. For example, you have executed some sort of SQL query, but the output which is given from this SQL query is not the one which you require, right? So in that case, you can alter the results in using this prepare function. And additionally, if you wanted to alter or add some additional details to your data, which is returned from this SQL query, then you can create your process. Process is more or less similar to what we are doing with the core migration or that other migration tools. Hope this help you a little bit understanding how SQL-based migration works. Let's walk through with a quick demo to better understand this five main elements of SQL-based migration, which is query, defining your fields, get ID function, prepare row, and additionally, we will walk you through with one short custom process in order to handle the data. So, I have set up two different environments. Let me set up Drupal 9 as well. So this is the very basic site where I have just created one content type called landing page. And inside this landing page content type, I have one paragraph reference field. And that paragraph contains three fields. One is the text field, one is the this editor field, and one is media reference field. And similarly, if we go to the Drupal 7 architecture, I'm having one this custom content type. Inside that, I have taken this title bodies by default. I have added one entity reference field, which is basically ECK. It's a custom entity type. And if we go to check these fields off, I have used this text field, uh, editor field, and an image field. And in Drupal 7, it's more or less same. But instead of this ECK, it's having a paragraph. And in Drupal 7, I have used this image field, while in Drupal 9, I have used it as a media field. So that's the only difference. The first difference is instead of this ECK entity type, I have used a paragraph. And second one is instead of image field, I have used media. So that's different architecture. Both the Drupal 7 and Drupal 9 architecture is not same. There are more or less differences between the either the field type or the entity type, right? So we'll see how this kind of migration can be handled using SQL scripts. So in order to understand about the database, as we are using mainly different SQL-based migration, so it requires a lot of knowledge of database and relation of different tables. So in order to do that, I have added this PHP for Lendo as well. So that will help us to understand the data structure. So here, if I check, I can see the machine name as ECK reference. Yeah. So I can see there is one table for my field in Drupal 7. And inside that table, I can see one target ID, which is basically a reference ID for that ECK bundle. Additionally, I have added three fields in that my ECK entity type. ECK field 1, field 2, and field 3. Let's see the tables for those as well. So as you can see, there are two more tables in association with my custom entity. So again, I can see that field ECK field 1 value and here I can see that for third field, it's basically image field. So it will not return a simple value, but it will return a file ID. So again, for this file, I need to have additional join for my manage file table. Right. So now let's prepare an SQL query first. So as we know that my main reference table for this ECK is this one, field data, field ECK reference. And from this table, what values I need to get? So it's a bundle of my node. So it's basically a content type. So I need to have bundle from this table. And additionally, I need to have this ECK reference target type. So this field will be used when we are having a join for my child element of my entity. So I need this table as well. I need this table. I need this table. So these are the three main tables. And additionally, I require this file manage table as well, but we'll see later for that point. So now let me pick up my SQL query. Select and left post join, right? These are the main elements of my SQL query. So this is my main table. So I'll use it from and will put some sort of areas for my table. Secure reference. My ER doc. What fields I need? I need bundle, the target ID of my ECK, which is the unique ID for my bundle. Then where will say only one. Left join, I'll say my all of the tables. And the relation between my main table and field specific table is the reference target ID from the main table equals to entity ID of my child table. So now my query is more or less prepared. Now just add values which I need to migrate. From this image field, I need the file ID. So these are my two different entities which I have added to my content, which is a node, and these are the values of my field values of my ECK bundle. Now I can see there are two file ID associated with the third field, 1 and 3. So now let's have an additional join for that file manage table, and we'll see what values we can retrieve from it. So from file manage, we require FID, UID, file name, and URL. So now we have all the corresponding values of entity. So if we go to C, let's add some node and values to this is CTK bundle. So the current output which we are seeing is from some previous database, and then I have truncated database, and we will have to have a new entry. Here we will be adding a new content. This content is saved with reference of EC2. Now I need to export the database from Drupal 7, and as we are having the two separate containers, I need to sync that database. Press this value. We can see the updated value, the one which we have just saved in our Drupal 7 content. So now, now we have prepared this SQL, right? But now how to manage it in our migrations? So it's similar to the core migration and the other migrations which we are used. So it's the same YML file where we are defining our source, we are defining our process, and we are defining our destination. So right now the source plugin is the migrate demo, and this migrate demo I have created my custom migration source, and it is basically extending this SqlBase class. The next thing is the destination plugin. So there is no difference in this destination because we are migrating from node to node. So it will be the same. And let's see about the process. So for the process, we are mapping the different field, right? Drupal 7 field to Drupal 9 field. So all the different fields are like node ID, title, its type, UID, and all this, the basic properties of node. I have kept it the same. No changes into that. And even the body field is also same. But now the change here is in the paragraph. Because in Drupal 7, if we see, it's an entity type. But in now Drupal 9, I have used it a paragraph. So the machine name I have taken into reference as a paragraph reference. Plugin is something I have created this a custom process plugin, set paragraph, and source. So while Drupal migrates the content of this field paragraph reference, it will take the source of this ECK data. Okay. So now the question is, what is this ECK data? So ECK data I can build based on my own requirement in my custom source plugin, which is migrate demo. So let's see about migrate demo. So this one is my migrate demo source plugin. and it's basically SQL based. So as I mentioned, there are mainly five different components, four different components. One is your query, then defining your fields, then get iris function and prepare. So the first one is the query. This is the main required function which you need to have in your SQL based migration. So here I have just used different left joins and uh, fetching the values of the node and any other values which I have additional fields in my content type. I can have additional left joins and I can fetch the values of that. And once I have this result, right, this can be multiple. If I have five nodes in the result, I will have the five different records. And in order to add any additional properties to my migration or to alter any result value, I need to use this prepare row function. Okay. So this is again the same thing which we are having for other migrations. Okay. But now, which query which we have prepared, right? This I have added in my prepare row function. I have used a static query. We can have it as a this dynamic query as well. I have kept both of the options here so that you can understand it can be a dynamic or it can be a static. Okay. So the query which I have built here is the same thing which I have placed here. Okay. So now let's see what is the row at the beginning of this prepare row function and at the end of this uh, prepare row function. Okay. So currently there is only one node which we have added for our Drupal server. So it lists down the one. If we have made some mistake in this query function, the result is not correct. It will throw an error or it will lead to some uh, different value than they expected. For example, if I fail to put a necessary join or a necessary condition, that might lead to create a problem in my output as well. For example, let's add a new content for some other content. Let's say, for example, title. So now in my Drupal 7, there's currently two nodes. Export that and see. I have resynced the data from Drupal 7 container to Drupal 9 as it does not provide any direct. Now, if I see the rush, still it's showing the one value. But if I remove this condition of my content type, then it will output me a two result because one is from the my content type and one is from this article content type. So if you make any mistake in your this query function, it will definitely lead to a problem while during your migration. So you need to take care while doing this SQL based migration that your prepared query is correct and you need to verify via uh, your PHP admin or your CLI MySQL command line. Okay, so let's migrate, start migration of this content. So as you can see currently, before or prepare row function alteration. The elements of the source property does not contain the one which we have assigned to migrate this paragraph reference, so which is basically this ECK data. And once we have processed that one, here we can see this ECK data is there. So which means I have added this ECK data in my prepare row function. I have added a new source property which can be used to migrate my ECK content to paragraph. So here I have built the result, and based on the requirement, I have set an array for ECK data. Right. So in my node, in Drupal 7 node, I have two different ECK elements. So it results that two are. So that means my query is correct. So now up to this part, the query wherever I have written either in query function or in prepare function, it's correct. Now I need to migrate from entity type ECK type to a paragraph. So in order to do that, I have created one process plugin which is handling the content which I have prepared in my source, and it processes the data, creates a paragraph element, and returns the paragraph ID to my YML file. So let's see about this set paragraph process plugin. So this one is my process plugin, as you can see here. So what this process plugin does, it just I have prepared a logic in order to create a media from a file entity and use that media ID and other fields which I have passed from my source plugin here into a paragraph, and then it will return this paragraphs to my field value. So now if I migrate this, I run this migration. Right. So one created, and if we now go to our content, so this new content, custom content type, content has been migrated. And if we go to edit of this particular node, you can see that a content from my ECQ is migrated to paragraph. It is a strong value. Here I haven't used editor, so I have manually added the strong. So in Drupal 9, it's converted to the actual strong value. And image also it's migrated, and now from it has been migrated from simple file entity to media entity, and this is the another field and image as well. So and so I hope you guys have understood and have some idea about how this SQL-based migration works. Any questions from anyone?
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I had an amazing time learning all the new things here at Specbee's TECHX. And if you did too, do let us know in the comments below. Keep following Specbee for the latest trends in technology. See you in the next one.